many of the cases that return us home deals with. What we often find is that parents who fear an abduction may occur, or parents who are seeking help outside of the legal system after an abduction has occurred, have this fear that getting the courts involved, getting a therapist involved, any of those things will aggravate a situation and will actually worsen an abduction, and or if a child maybe has returned from an abduction, that seeking any additional recourse will have a negative impact and maybe affect a reabduction. Oftentimes, some of the very clear indicators in the child that something is going awry for them in their emotional state get overlooked as their children. They will get over this. So if you were able to speak right now to a parent that fits that description, what advice might you share with him or her?
I do think, like I said before, a court order or a legal process might help give better assurances that something bad may not happen in the future, but it is by far imperfect. There are no 100% guarantees that we could prevent a child from being abducted in the future. Even if there are laws in place to help, judges are human. They're imperfect. They may not see things the same way. So there have been situations where clients or opposing parties have gone into court who have asked for a judge to try to stop an abduction, and the judges just don't see that it's going to happen, and the parent feels defeated, and then the abduction happens. And so it is a very imperfect system, but it is the best system we have. I know if you go to the U.S. Department of State and ask them for help and guidance in trying to prevent an abduction, the best and primary piece of advice they give is to get a court order trying to prevent the abduction, because much in that regard, the State Department, law enforcement, government agencies cannot do anything or take further steps without a court order. So it's just one of the unfortunate next steps that you might have to take. And yes, it may aggravate the situation, especially when you're working with families and cultures that they may not be able to trust their legal system because they might be corrupt, or you might have to bribe a judge. And they may not understand that the legal system in the United States might be different in that regard.
And from a clinical perspective, parents often come to me, or I hear from other providers, I don't want to put my child in therapy because I feel like it's opening Pandora's box. And it's going to make it worse for them to sit and talk about what happened and what they went through. And there's, such a stigma around mental health in general, but also not a lot of understanding about how parental abduction impacts children. And so part of what I do is educate people, educate parents, educate providers, educate schools, and work with them to help them understand that a child is going to need support and help through this process. And the best support, I may be a little biased, but the best support and help is a mental health provider who has an understanding, an objective understanding of what the child is going through. And so as a mental health provider, I can sit with the child and create a safe environment for them to express, as I've stated before, any difficult thoughts and feelings they may be experiencing and not understanding. And so I can observe those things. And if a parent is concerned about a further abduction, I can recognize signs that are concerning and red flags that might be helpful. I surely cannot 100% prevent abduction, but I can work with the child to become more emotionally stable and help them through the process. And I think that's really important for parents to understand. And I think sometimes parents are more apprehensive to seek help because of what they've been through. And I've found that children are very willing to engage and want the space to process through what they've experienced and what they are experiencing and what they fear they might experience. So I just encourage them to seek out someone who's trained in the area of parental abduction and to work with them.